Hey, this is Russell Brunson. Welcome back to the channel. On today's video, I'm going to be showing you guys a special presentation I did for my top-level mastermind students where we talked about how do you find a mentor. Now, there's a lot of people who claim to be good mentors or people who want to help you, but how do you find a mentor who's actually going to get you to the finish line to get the result you're looking for? And I'm going to walk you through 3 criteria points that are essential to make sure you're listening to the right people. And also on top of that, we're here inside of my brand new Napoleon Hill room where I'm surrounded by books from a whole bunch of my mentors, people who have passed on, who have literally changed my life. And so that's what the new scenery is here right here. With that said, I'm going to load up the video. If you have any questions or comments, let me know down in the comments. I'll be checking those out, and also like and subscribe to get more videos just like this. With that said, here are the steps to make sure you find the perfect mentor for you. One of my friends, Preston Eli, he wrote this blog post. This is probably 10 years ago. It's my favorite blog post on the entire internet, and it's the funniest thing ever. But he goes through like his routine, his daily routine, thing after thing after thing, and it's like intense, like second by second. Like second number 1, I wake up. Second number 2, I blink 3 times. Second number 1, he goes through this. It's like the most insane, and like I literally every time I read it, I send him, I'm like, dude, this is literally the best blog post on the entire internet. And but my favorite line is he goes through this whole thing about supplements he takes and like all that kind of stuff, and then he stops for a second in this blog post. He's like, you ask why? He's like, because Tony Robbins told me so. He says, I obey all giants with money, helicopters, and stage presence. And actually, Jenny, we need to make a t-shirt with this for this group. Like, this would be insane. I obey all giants with money, helicopters, and stage presence. Now, for all of us, like, this principle is key. And I'm not saying to blindly follow people, right? Not like just like everything I say, you shouldn't do it. Like, I'm not saying that. But I am saying is that you need to do your due diligence to figure out who your guide is going to be. And when you find a guide who you believe with, you connect with the same values and things like that, then you've got to do this. You obey all giants with money, helicopters, and stage presence. Okay? When I hire someone to be a coach, I spend a lot of time up front vetting them. Similar to your spouse, right? They always say, like, when you're dating someone, you date with your eyes wide open, and after you marry, you close your eyes down, right? That's how it works, I think. Same thing, like I'm gonna go look at everything, make sure that my values align with the person I'm gonna hire to be my guide or my coach, whatever it is, and after I've done that, boom, now I obey everything they say. That's the whole like hashtag do what Russell says thing came out of it. Brandon and Kaylin were the first really to blow up a company inside of our coaching platform and what we were doing. And they came back and that was what they did. Like whatever Russell says, we're just gonna do it. And they just blindly followed everything I said because they had vetted me ahead of time. They decided that I was gonna be their guide, and then they put on the blinders and they just did it.
Russell Brunson. I'm having a moment, dude. So
We're having a serious moment.
We just got our dream home under contract. Love you, man.
Hashtag do what Russell says.
And so for me, I've always, when I'm going into something, when I pick something with definite purpose, the first thing I'm trying to do is who's already been there. I do not want to trailblaze this thing on my own. Okay, I might not make it. But if I can find a guide and someone who's done it before, then it's not going to be that difficult, right? So who is the guide? A couple things is, number one, if I want to have someone to be a guide, that person has to actually have a strategy. They've got to have a framework. For example, how many of you guys love Gary Vaynerchuk? When I listen to Gary, the reason why is because Gary creates a certain belief pattern in my mind. I hear him talk about over and over and over again. Guess what Gary does not provide? A map. He doesn't have a framework. There's nothing. So like people will sit there and listen to Gary for the rest of their life and they're going to change their belief patterns, but they've got no map. They've got no guide. Dan Kennedy, I love Dan Kennedy. Dan Kennedy is really good at this. Right? If you listen to his courses, it's like mind hacks, one of the greatest courses of all time. It's like 47 different mind hacks to do in your sales and your marketing. It's amazing, but there's no framework. It's just like, here's a whole 47 cool things you can do. Like, whoa, this is amazing. But I don't know where to go now. Like, so which one do I do first? I don't know. There's no path. Okay? So I love listening to other outside influences that are going to help shape my belief. I listen to Dan Kennedy all the time because I start thinking like Dan Kennedy. I listen to Tony Robbins all the time because I start thinking like Tony Robbins. I listen to Gary Vee because I start thinking like Gary Vee. So there's value in other people. But if they're not a guide, do not hire them to be your guide. Find somebody who has a proven step-by-step process. So I pick the mentor who's got an actual strategy. I buy in, and I have to make sure that their strategy isn't just like, here's the overall strategy, but inside the strategy, do they have tactics? Like step 1, step 2, step 3, so I have a path I can actually follow. If they don't have these things, they can't be my guide, okay? They can be an influence, but they're not gonna be my guide. Otherwise, you're gonna be spinning in circles for the rest of your life. There are multiple ways to get to the end result, right? I don't have a monopoly on like the only way to build a business, right? Like if your end goal, the definite purpose, I want to make money, there's a lot of paths there. There's Russell's path, which is funnels. There's this one on eBay. There's Amazon. There's this, like there's a million different paths. And the reality is most of the paths will actually get you there. That's what's crazy about it. You can do it. It doesn't really matter, but you got to pick one path. But the way you're not going to ever get there is if you got one foot on Russell's path and one foot over here on this path, and you got an arm. It's like that twister game where you're like this. Like you're never going to get to the end ever, right? Because you got to make sure that you are picking on one. So you pick the path, put on blinders, and do what that person says. Otherwise, you're going to be this and spinning, and you're never actually going to get there. Okay? My biggest frustration, we used to have this, Mandy can remember this, we used to do these calls with the inner circle members back in the day where we called them decade and day calls, where I had a 30-minute call with every single person. I can't tell you how many times people get in a fight with me over something. But so-and-so said this, well, so-and-so said that funnels don't work anymore, so-and-so said that. I'm like, oh my gosh, I hire so-and-so then. Because they apparently know, like, but this way works for me. It's worked for, like, I got tons of case studies. I can show you what we're 15, 16, 1,700 people have hit two common clubs. So like, there's a process, there's a path. We've done it over and over and over and over again. Like, just focus on the thing you have right now. When you succeed on that, then do the next thing. This is one of the epiphanies I had this week where I was like freaking out. Have you ever heard that phrase where people are like, you never want to meet your mentors? You never want to meet your heroes because they're going to disappoint you? Like, for example, Dan Kennedy. Dan Kennedy and I share a value. We both have value in marketing, right? We share that value. We're real passionate. And so I studied him, I loved it and everything. And I have a chance to meet him. What happens is you meet somebody and it's like, oh my gosh, like I have this value that's the same, but these other values aren't in alignment. And we freak out, we're like, oh, I don't like this person anymore because our values aren't the same. And like, it destroys the relationship. Okay? It doesn't have to be that way. I can love Dan Kennedy because of the things we share, the value we share. He may not have the same religious beliefs as me. He may have the same other beliefs as me. That's okay. Okay? If we think that the only people we can like are people who have 100% same values as us, it's going to be a very, very lonely, miserable life for you. In our church, there's Joseph Smith wrote this thing called the Articles of Faith. There are different Articles of Faith. And one of the Articles of Faith says, if there's anything virtuous, lovely, of good report, or praiseworthy, we seek after these things. In every relationship I'm with, where I have value that overlaps, I can find something virtuous, lovely, of good report inside of that thing, and I can love that person because of it. I don't have to agree with everything to get value from the relationship. I want to stress that because if not, you're going to struggle. Like some people in this room probably are like, Russell, I don't align with some of these things. I don't believe in a God. I don't believe in that. Like, that's okay. We share this common value if we're trying to change the world inside of our businesses. So like, let's focus on that. So when I'm picking my mentor, I'm picking somebody who we have the same value, right? They've been where I'm trying to get to. And so I'm looking at this, the person I pick as my mentor, what are their beliefs? What are their rules? What are their habits and routines? Because I want to model people who are successful. And if I pick that person as my guide, I want to understand what they're doing, why they're doing it, how they're doing it. Because it's going to save me all the time and energy trying to figure these things out on my own.